The art of effective communication for conscious living. Actually, communication is a very general subject, and everybody uses communication to for in human relations, organizational behavior, and business. But the communication is very loosely used, and it is not scientifically documented before 1950s. And we take the communication as for granted because we generally just pass it on. We communicate with each other. We communicate in the organization, but it is not so. Communication has got a lot of meaning, and communication facilitates human relations, business, administration, and all other spheres of life. So, how knowing the nitty-gritty of the communication is an important part of our life, but which is generally not included in the normal curriculum of a college or unless you are a management graduate. So this is a very important aspect. So I will touch upon the the rules and regulations of the effective communication, which are postulated by a psychiatrist and a management guru, namely Eric Berne. Eric Berne was born in Canada, and he obtained his MD degree in psychiatry and management, and subsequently he migrated to United States of America, and he postulated and founder of the subject called transactional analysis, which basically depends on communication channels and communication states. It's a psychological framework to explain human behavior and communication. According to Eric Berne, every communication between individuals is a transaction and energy exchange. Not only that, he assumed that all human beings are okay, and every human being can think and act. And transaction analysis is a beautiful framework that helps with conscious living through the way we listen and speak. Transaction analysis is deeply human, very professional, and perfectly aligned with the conscious living. Every communication channel has a sender and a receiver, as you are all aware. Both have different perspectives with regard to their social, economical, spiritual backgrounds through which they communicate. Because everyone generally carries a baggage from their earlier years of living, like childhood, adolescence, your professional job, professional and family life. And another barrier to the communication are linguistic, spiritual, emotional differences, which lead to conflict. So this transaction analysis reduces the difference of conflict. That is, conflict will be reduced by practicing transaction analysis. Eric Berne visualized interpersonal relationships are based on actually Eric Berne has taken the ego state as a basis for analyzing the communication channels. So the interpersonal relationships are based on three ego states of communication. We take one of the three states as states of mind. That is, a person who is communicating will represent one of the three states mentioned here. One is parent ego state, which is authoritative, adult ego state, which is patient and thoughtful, child ego state, which represents emotional, impulsive, and creative. We generally assume any one of these three states without we knowing, because we never practiced or we never taught in the curriculum, but we assume one of these three states in our day-to-day life. Eric Berne suggested that the ego states describe the three different experiences. One is parent ego state, the matrix is parent, adult, child. This is called fundamental structure of the egos. Parent, adult, child in the descending order. Parent at the top, adult at the middle, and child at the bottom. Parent ego state represents behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that have been copied or taken or are introjected from the parents and parent figures. These ego states are generally rigid, not receptible for change unless it is really warranted. Adult ego state, behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that are direct responses to the here and now. This state is friendly state. The communication is two-way and one-to-one. It is one-to-one. Child ego state, behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that are archaic responses to childhood experiences. But please note, these are not the individuals, these are the ego states. Now, parent ego state, again say, parent ego state is they are behaviors, thoughts, feelings copied from parents and parent figures, and also they have a rigid mindset, means difficult to convince is parent. This adult ego state, behaviors, thoughts, and feelings are direct responses to here and now, and they live in the present, and they accept change, and they are adaptable. This is a very reasonable and preferred state for effective communication. Child ego state, behaviors, thoughts, and feelings are replayed from childhood. This are also rigid, but can be modified, can be manipulated. Child ego state can also be manipulated. Parent ego, once more, will summarize. Parent ego state is an authoritative state. It depends on rules, it advises, and it is judgmental and patriarchal in nature. Parent ego is the barrier to ideas, innovation, spirituality, and conscious living, and this will always break the communication channel unless it is brought down to the next stage, that is adult stage. Child ego, nascent ego state. They're just looking into the world and its affairs. They are emotional. I mean, this state is emotional. This state is playful. This state is impulsiveness. This state is reactive. This state has little past experiences. So I am still, once again, I am telling you, I am informing that these are the ego states only, not personalities. So child ego is not ready to visualize a big picture. Adult ego. Adult ego is a very preferred ego state for effective communication. So this ego depends on the rational, balanced, here and now. They appreciate the present. They are conscious. They are mindful. This state is mindful. This state has got no baggage of past experiences. This state is not judgmental. So which effect? Adult ego is the preferred state to be in for effective communication, and this is the best state, ego state, for familial relations, for interpersonal relations in official, in office, in business, in everywhere, in everywhere in our life, where there is a communication. Examples for our ego states. All of us carry these three states, and we will be operating in these three states every time, every day, every minute, whenever we communicate. Actually, every communication results in a transaction. Without transaction, there is no communication. The transaction can be emotional, the transaction can be business, the transaction may be administration, or any other friendship, or any other emotional exchange, like so without transaction, there is no communication. That is why subject is called transactional analysis. One of the examples we'll see, all the three states we'll see, three ego states. When we scold ourselves or others, we are operating in the parent ego state. When we calculate or analyze calmly and respond to the environment properly, then we are in the adult ego state. When we giggle, sulk, and feel hurt, it is a child ego state. I'll just explain further. This parent ego state is always dismissing. So they don't encourage the state won't encourage the innovation. When we calculate this adult ego state, we go as per by analyzing the situation, and accordingly we communicate with the other person who is ready to communicate with us in the adult ego state. Next, child ego state is very difficult to control. They feel hurt very easily. They means that state. So we have to bring them back to the adult state to have a effective communication. Yeah. Transactional analysis is a visual representation is presented here. Ego state and their interactions. See, first is parent to parent. Parent to parent communication state or ego state is both participate, operate on parent ego state, and everyone stick to their ideas and their knowledge. They will not appreciate the other person who is communicating with them. And this is an aggressive communication channel. No exchange of ideas, no innovation, ready to conflict. And this is a counterproductive communication channel or ego state. Then we have parent to child. Child, we see the child ego state. When two child ego states are communicating with each other, both participants operate on a child ego state, emotional and victim playing, no instantaneous results. The communication may break down very fast. There is no exchange of ideas. Parent to child. One participant is authoritative, the other is reactive. Child ego may act as a rebel. They will not appreciate the authoritative parent. Communication breaks very easily and the transaction will not be complete. Adult. This is the most desired and ideal communication channel or a communication ego state. This is represented by balanced, mindful, and thoughtful. And this is the state where the consciousness comes in. The consciousness is inward looking. So while reacting to other person's needs of communication, this adult ego realizes the other person's need and want, and accordingly he adjusts ego to the situation so that they will have a good transaction results. Easy exchange of ideas and innovation. This is the most preferred communication channel which can be practiced by everyone. Why this matters for conscious living? Unconscious transactions are reactive, not responsive, and not thoughtful. No information processing is done in our conscious mind. Witness the parent and child ego voices in us. Yeah, this conscious living is to step into adult ego state. There is nothing wrong in going into the adult ego state. What exactly? Because at the end of the day, every communication should result in transaction. So one person who is at the parent stage need to come down to the adult stage, so that the other person who is at the child stage will also try to come to the adult stage, so the transaction is completed and the mindfulness and spirituality is achieved. Conscious living is a step into adult ego state. Respond from the awareness. At the end of the day, what we should realize is the communication should be egoless. The egoless communication is nothing but your adult communication. because both have balanced their ego there. So communication takes place, transaction completes, and they will achieve fulfillment in their life. Meditation and effective communication. In meditation, we practice witnessing thoughts. Witnessing thoughts, when we close your eyes and meditate, you are witnessing thoughts which are not having any ego state. It is an egoless state. That is meditation. So that is why you fulfill your mindfulness. In communication, that is transactional analysis, helps witness which voice is speaking, that is which ego is speaking. So we can easily identify the ego state of the other person who is communicating with us. Accordingly, if we want the transaction to be completed, accordingly we can adjust our ego state so that the communication is complete, transaction is complete, and your mindfulness is achieved. Just observe which ego state we are speaking from before communicating. Transaction analysis advantages. Better communication channel in business organizations. Stress management in individuals. Stress management in individuals is because there is this acts as a conflict resolution. Because your egos are balanced in adult ego state. So you don't have any baggage of the communication at the end of the day. Better understanding of real life situations, because in transaction analysis you process the information in your brain, and also you process the environment also before reacting or before communicating. Global perspective to a problem, because you appreciate the other person's ego state, and also you process the information which he is giving, and you have more ideas than what you have already perceived. So it gives a global perspective to a problem, and this improves organizational behavior, which in effect increases the productivity of the organization. Awareness requires living in here and adult state, and not in the elsewhere. Awareness is the nothing but presence of mind, where the information from the environment is processed in the brain, and accordingly you act and you fulfill your desires, and you have a mindful living. Now let us take three ego states, real life experiences. Example one we take as the parent-child trap. A husband to his wife, it generally happens in every family, and it is depends on the mood of the wife and husband who are interacting with each other, mood or ego state. Ego state can also be sometimes can be loosely used as a mood. A husband says to his wife, "You never listen to me." So here what he is doing is that he is taking the parent ego state, and with a critical tone. Tone also is an important thing. The wife replies, "Why are you always blaming me?" Child state defensive. The transaction escalates and no real communication. And unless the parent, that is husband, come to the unless the husband come to the adult stage, at the same time wife also relates herself to the adult stage, then the communication is complete, then coffee is made, the transaction is complete. Otherwise both of them will be suffering from the conflict for 2 days or 3 days. So what happens? Your mindfulness is gone, your peace of mind is gone, just for the sake of one ego state. So that is not advisable, because your life relationship is longer than this transient responses. transient responses have no meaning in the family life. Or I may be wrong at one point of time, but the other person should appreciate it and come to the adult level, so that the other person also come to the adult level. This also we call it as placating. Sometimes what happens, placates. Sometimes you placating is also called adult, coming back to the adult stage. Next example 2, at your organization or at your work. A manager says, the report is late again. Parent state critical. The employee replies, I'm sorry, I just can't keep up. Sales state and submissive. Both lose power and both are in emotional distress, and transaction is not complete. But if the adult emerges, employee says, yes, it's late. Let's look at the what caused it and find way forward. Now it's a solution focused, and both will sit together as adult ego, and the problem will be solved. Example 3, the spiritual path. Even meditation group, the parent state can appear as dogma. As dogma, as we are all aware because we are into meditation, a dogma state is, I know everything. Nobody should teach me. I don't want any guru for the meditation or whatever it is. This is the right way to meditate. That is what I say, which I perceive, which I think I am a parent. The child may resist, I don't want rules, but the adult state honors both structure and freedom. Let's experiment and see what works for our practice. So we generally focus on our ego state always when we talk. There is actually for a happy living, for mindfulness, once again I'm repeating, is adult interaction is the best in any field or sphere of operation, and it gives you emotional balance, mindfulness, and spirituality. You achieve spirituality in this state of ego. And there is one association for this transactional analysis, that is North Atlantic Transactional Association, which is situated in San Francisco Bay Area. So I summarize the advantages of this transactional analysis. One is, it enhances your communication skills. It understands scripts people live. It identifies games people play. It brings help to your love life and relationships. And I suggest some recommendations for the books. This is I Am Okay, You Are Okay by Thomas A. Harris, MD. He is also psychiatrist. Transactional Analysis in Psychotherapy, Eric Berne. Eric Berne, MD, Games People Play. The Psychology of Human Relationships. Thank you. And one